Let me unmute myself. What's going on, everybody? Hail Jabronis. Dark Horse Discourse is back after I just took a week off, I think. I did that random stream a couple weeks ago, but just trying to get in the swing of things. Been shifting my schedule around to where I'm waking up at the pretty much ass crack of dawn to get workouts in, try to work on the books, things of that nature. And so let's see. Check the mic. Is it too quiet? Let me know. What's the issue here? Mic check. Again, it's coming through the computer. Okay, let me check this out. It's doing it again. Thank you, Katie. Always saving my ass when it comes to the microphone. I don't know why it does this. Thank you. Is that better? I'm going to assume that's better. Okay, let's check in on the chat here. As you can tell, we have Katie Did's channel here. Thank you, yes, for sharing it out. And everybody make sure that you go to her channel after this stream. She's going to be starting around 9:45 with CG After Dark. We have Zombie Boy. Welcome as always. We have John A. Douglas. That's right, the Dread Knight of Indie Comics. We have Amazing Gaming Productions. Welcome. Christopher Bouchard. How's it going? Oh, yeah. I use my mind is blanking right now. That's what happens when you take a couple weeks off. A deck or whatever, docking station. And every time I change from like work computer to personal computer, it decides to just change my mic selection as well as my camera selection, even though it's in the docking station. So yeah, pain in the ass. So yeah, just trying to adjust to a new schedule of getting up super early, which makes it hard to stream at night. So that's why I'm starting a little bit earlier today, but also want to make sure that there's a nice carryover into another streamer's stream so that the chat can go check them out. We also have Kobe Mack. Welcome. So, first topic, let's talk about Johnny Rocket's campaign, The Maniac, and how it was flagged, reported several times by our not so friend of the chat, Niobe, king agitator when it comes to CG. I think he's already shut down his like 10th alt as of late, and he proudly admitted, from what I could tell, that he was reporting Johnny Rocket's campaign simply because he did a parody piece of art, and it was a promotional piece of art. From what I can tell in the actual preview of the comic, his parody Neo Bunny is not in the comic, but no shocker that this is happening, right? He's been going off the deep end. Clearly, has been quite desperate for attention, just saying he's going to do whatever it takes to damage CG creators and blah blah blah. But he's actually taken it to the lengths of reporting campaigns unjustly and getting them removed. And I think Johnny had already raised at least $1,000 on Indiegogo. Thankfully, there's Fund My Comics, so he's jumped over there so he can continue on with his campaign. But the thing is, people will say, oh, late campaigns, right? Late books, YouTube drama, blah, blah, blah. That's what's damaging crowdfunding. No. It's the negative narrative around crowdfunding, and it's this bullshit. It's the people that have vendettas against each other, and instead of doing their bitching online, they're actually trying to get them removed from platforms and damage their ability to make money. And he's said it several times in the comments of my live streams about he is okay with canceling certain people. Right? You're either okay with canceling or you're not. There's really no fence sitting when it comes to that topic. And seems like he and or others have proven to be okay with cancellation and have had it they made it happen on Indiegogo. So completely unacceptable. Um, just straight despicable behavior. So obviously, I want folks to go and support the Maniac. It is part of the promotion segment. I'm going to pull up his preview that he has on Substack here. So right now it's being edited and approved again on Fund My Comic. That's the only one thing that people that are kind of new to Fund My Comic after using Indiegogo or Kickstarter have to be aware of is whenever you make any changes to the campaign, um, you have to wait a while basically for an admin to accept those changes. Unlike Indiegogo, it's like automatic, and then they'll flag it later on if there's something that doesn't meet the criteria or whatnot. So um, get this pulled up. So right now you can't technically look at his campaign, unfortunately, but we can look at his Substack preview. It's like, there we go. So for those of you that don't know who Johnny Rocket is, he is known initially for doing the rewrite of Ice on One. He did his own kind of rewrite of it and made it like super gritty and actually a, a decent comic. He did a really good job redoing like the dialogue and everything. And then EBS had picked him up to do Elephant, which what we've seen on that so far looks really, really good. So this is a newbie essentially, right, to comics who's came into the scene, made an impression, gotten hired, and while he's working on Elephant, he's doing his own comic here called The Maniac, which you can kind of get like a Judge Dredd vibe to it, but also you can tell there's going to be a lot of humor, just over the top, like craziness, essentially. Hence why he did the parody piece making fun of Niobe. But the art looks really good, and again, the dialogue that I've seen from his other works as well as on here, and the inner monologue, it's really really good writing. So folks definitely should check this out for something unique and interesting. So once it's back up on my comic, definitely go check it out and support him and show Niobe that he doesn't have any power at all over CG or over indie comics, because again, there's always Fun My Comic, thankfully. So go and check that out. Yeah, so on I'll show you guys. Let me pull up Fun My Comic here. It's just saying that it's under review essentially, which happens anytime I made small edits to my campaign when it was on my comic. Sometimes it would take just like an hour, for example. Other times it could take 6 hours. It just depends on when the admin could review those changes. So let's try to search for it again. I tried it a couple times about 10 minutes ago. And yeah, looks like it's still being edited. So by the end of the night, maybe tomorrow, folks can go and check that out. But again, this is just one of, I mean, there's been plenty cases of folks being reported unjustly, getting their campaigns removed. And the thing is, I mean, you can have an issue with Indiegogo for doing it, but I'm not going to put them at fault, essentially, because it's the people that are making the bullshit reports. Um, we have no idea what's being said in those reports, what lies, right? What, hyperbolic bullshit. And so, they're obviously just trying to protect themselves. And unfortunately, they listen to someone crying like a teenage girl to damage someone else's campaign instead of focusing on their own campaigns. And we talked about this with the whole virtue signaling issue in indie comics a couple weeks ago, in that you have people just, and we went over a couple tweets. And I saw another one today by Edwin that because the Rainbow the Brute action figure campaign is getting delayed a bit, and makes sense, right, with the China tariff situation and everything. That even if it's going to happen like a month or two late, which is nothing in reality that people should start potentially contacting their banks about fraud processing and all this bullshit. And it's like, are you kidding? That means you would have to literally report fraud for like so many projects, regardless of if it's comics or not, on all the crowdfunding sites. Like that's such a bitch made thing to get into people's heads because what's sad is there are some gullible idiots in this world that would be, oh, that's a good idea. Oh, yeah, you're right. Like, we can't accept any lateness, blah, blah, blah. And then they're going to go and falsely report that to the bank, create problems, not only at the bank, but also with the crowdfunding site, and ultimately could damage the creator. And the thing is, they're going to think, like, oh, I'm doing the right thing, right? Are you? You're also damaging all of those other backers, right? Just because you have an issue with it doesn't mean the other hundreds or thousands of backers do. And if you end up getting their campaign removed, well, guess what? They don't get the things that they purchase that they want, and or it gets delayed by a couple more months because they have to do the campaign all over again on a whole new site, promote, promote, promote. So you're not just trying to damage the creator. You're trying to damage institutions and you're trying to just damage everyday people that want some toys or want some comics. So this bullshit of like pushing for, claiming fraud and all this is absolutely insane. It's going to damage people on every level and it's just complete nonsense. If you want to ask for a refund, go for it. But the thing is, if the creator's giving updates, they're communicating with their backers, and they have a track record of always fulfilling their campaigns, regardless of if they're late, you should not be doing any of that nonsense at all. And you should not risk damaging and affecting all those other backers that are just patiently waiting for things that they want. So there's my mini rant for that topic. But I'm just so sick of that fake virtue signaling. And the thing is, they don't actually believe it. They're just trying to damage someone they don't like. They don't care if there's collateral damage or anything of that nature. And that's why they also try to go after folks based on guilt by association. They think that, oh, if I go after that small guy that's connected to that big guy, I'll somehow bleed onto him. And it's like, you have nothing better to do with your life. Like, if you don't like a creator, I mean, speak your piece and move on, or you can speak your piece all you want, right? But when you start trying to do all this false allegations and shit, like, no, it's crossing the line. Let's see what's going on in the chat here. Yes, he has been. Niobe's been going off the deep end, and oh, I try to be polite, and I've been very polite with him. Obviously, he's been in my chat a million times trying to stir up shit, but you can just tell with some creators when their campaigns aren't doing very well, they start to get desperate and they think that they can get attention by stirring up trouble. They can maybe get the anti-CG backers to back them, but the thing is, there's not enough of them to have a viable campaign, and these folks don't realize that. And then they'll try to latch on to, let's say, Rippaverse backers or this or that, and try to virtue signal to them. It's just not going to work. Just isn't. And then they're also trying to virtue signal to the big two, like, hey, if I show that I'm, one of the good guys, that I hate the things that they hate, that I'm, standing up for the little guy, then yeah, they'll hire me. And then you're like, well, you've been doing for this like for 10 years and they haven't hired you yet. So what's going on? Either your writing is good enough or it isn't, or your IP is good enough or it isn't. If you're going to stick with the same IP, the same type of story with the same writing style, like you're literally just flinging shit at a wall, expecting it to somehow leak through the wall, and it's not going to happen. So, what's your tactic? Attack other creators and hope that you'll get some pats on the back, like from some of the worst people. that work in mainstream comics. Like you actually want to get into mainstream comics not by the merit of your work, um, or the uniqueness of your IP. You want to get in by complaining. Like, how would that make you feel good if you actually did get in? Like, man, I would never want that to happen. Yeah. We also have Kobe Mack. Welcome. We have Victor the Lore Seeker. He said, "Evening. I backed your comic during the Katie stream, but I haven't gotten it. Not sure if you saw my email about it. If this is about the digital comic, shoot me another email because I've tried to send it a couple times, and I'm wondering if maybe you're having an issue accessing the like Google Drive link. So if it's the same person, just shoot me another email or I'll try to follow up with you and we'll find a way to get it to you if we can avoid I can try to compress it so that the size isn't so big. But yeah, let's definitely get that taken care of. And sorry for the inconvenience, absolutely. What's going on, Jimmy the Lumberjack? Welcome. We have Edwin Buzz Acevedo. Welcome, man. Welcome. Another great indie creator there. See, we got Stray Beans. Welcome. How's it going? We have Baki. Welcome. I know it's impossible because it's perfect. No, I think many people could improve it, but yeah, we won't go there. ah, so yeah, the comic is going really well. I think I'm on page 29 right now or 28, out of what'll probably be 50 plus at this point. Um, got some character designs done. And so probably should start seeing some art here in the near future. But the artist is finishing up on another project, so just told him like take your time, finish that up, so that once you get to mine, you can have full focus on it. I'm not trying to rush anything. I want them to take their time and make it as detailed as possible. And oh, it's going to be detailed. You guys will understand that once I announce who the artist is. But yeah, it's going well. I've already done I don't know, like a sixth pass on the first 25 or so pages. So again, my style is I'll write a new page or two, and then I go back and read through everything, make revisions, and then like I'll watch a couple movies, read a couple comics that I'm studying, and then see do I get any inspiration or any ideas for modifications, go back, make edits, and then it could be a couple days or even a week later, then I'll work on a new page. So I'm constantly going back and forth, because even after the fifth or sixth draft, I'm not going to assume that it's ready to go. And then once I get art pages, I may need to make adjustments again to make sure it fits the art of the artist, because again, right now it's all in my head, right? The panels, the art, everything's in my head, and it may not line up exactly to as how the artist puts it on paper. So yeah, it's going well, and I'm having a blast doing it. So we have Flippy. Welcome. Ooh, yeah, that's nasty. I mean, that's the thing. For folks that are being impacted by tariffs, right? Let's say they printed a comic, made a toy or whatever in China, or let's say it's being made right now. The tariff doesn't apply until it needs to get shipped, right? I would not blame them at all for delaying the project a couple months. I mean, I don't I speaking as a backer, I would never want a creator to take a massive hit that could ultimately push them out of the scene, or lose money, right? I want them to make money. I want them to continue to pursue their dreams, and I'm obviously hopeful that whatever they're producing is going to be awesome and that they're going to have more and more and more and more, right? Because that's what this is all about, is finding great content and right trying to just grow on that so there's more great content out there. So um, the only people that are going to say, "Oh, you need to just take the hit," are people that haven't even backed, that don't give a crap about that creator, or they want to see him get hurt. So I would not blame them at all, and it would be a smart business decision ultimately to wait it out a bit because again, this could change in a week. It could change tomorrow. It could change in a month. I mean, that's just how Trump operates. It's a lot of knee jerk, tariff, stuff, and I don't know. It's just doesn't mean it's going to be months late or whatever. Like it's just a matter of just being a little bit patient because it can change every day. So. So I have a couple Deathstroke figures. So let's see here. Up there is my largest one there. Can't like easily zoom in, but I'll have to one of these days, pull them down so I can show them a little bit up close. And then down here I have an old like 1990s Teen Titans action figure, and I think I have some like goofy Funko Pops at one of the bottom shelves, but yeah, I absolutely love Deathstroke. Obviously, with the mask up here, one of my favorite characters and one of the most original and unique character designs and backstories. Marv Wolfman is amazing. So for folks that are maybe new to comics or looking for some great comics, just check out Marv Wolfman's work. Specifically Deathstroke and Teen Titans, like just fantastic. A little bit. This is true. This is true. And welcome, Samurai. And welcome, Aaron, Immortal Rising. He has a comic that's live on Fund My Comic as well. Make sure you guys check that out. Any mods, feel free to share the link. Aaron, share your own book. That's one thing. Anyone that's a mod that has their own books, share it. Feel free. Don't feel guilty of doing that. So go check that out and Fund My Comic. He raised over $4,000 on Indiegogo. I loved the first book. I'm going to be reading the second one soon, so that we can talk about it here. So definitely do that. Yeah, I mean the whole drama, anti-drama, anti-CG stuff is it's tricky. Um, I can understand people on the outside that have not had many interactions and real conversations, right, with people within CG, how they could be turned off by the concept of drama and some of the things that they see. But there's usually a lot more going on behind the drama. And it could go years back, it could go months back. And so I think a lot of times it gets blown out of proportion, it gets misconstrued, and in many cases it's not that big of a deal and it's just some interpersonal conflicts between individuals that doesn't need to affect other people, and it doesn't need to affect backers either. But I mean, me personally, I've had zero issues with folks in CG, even folks that I quote unquote left CG. I still have some great relationships with some of them, and they just quietly kind of stepped away, which I have again no issue with. Like, do your own thing, But I don't know. There's been a couple of the now anti CG folks that have taken shots at me and stuff, but overall, I've had more struggles actually with folks outside of CG. Specifically folks that claim to be anti-drama that are not anti-drama, um, or folks that claim to be CG but they really never were. They were just trying to make money off of the movement or off of the group, and it was quite apparent. And so those are the ones. Again, they're the ones tainting the space. The ones that are just trying to take advantage of the moment and don't give a shit about those around them, or promoting others and things of that nature. And so to me, again, a red flag of a creator in the space is if they don't promote anyone else or they don't care, then they're probably just in it for the money. But yeah, I mean, it's been smooth sailing. I haven't been involved in any of the drama. No one's pushed drama on me. And again, the agitators in the chat have all been like diehard, anti CG for years. So yeah. Oh, just getting started. Yes, there you go. Hit his link tree and back his book. All right, let's see here. What should we talk about next? let's talk about this whole bullshit narrative around elitism in comics. Elitism. And this is, again, one of those other terms that keeps getting pushed by anti CG folks, folks that are clearly just trying to damage other creators. They don't have any real stake in comics, even in some cases. And honestly, it's as if they're kind of projecting their own lack of creativity and success in the space as well. Because let's be honest, creatives, anybody that's successful in anything or talented, right? Whether it's sports, professional, careers and all that, they're going to have an ego to an extent. And in a lot of cases, they've earned that ego, right? Michael Jordan earned his ego. Scottie Pippen earned his ego. You can't say that any professional athlete shouldn't have an ego to an extent because they busted their ass and they earned it. Um, and I'm sure they would laugh if, someone said, "Oh, this, high school basketball player deserves as much attention, or money as an NBA player." Well, obviously not. They haven't proved to be as talented, right? They haven't played college ball or they haven't even stepped on a professional court. So it's more of a, hey, let's wait and see before you get cocky type of thing. So yeah, some folks have earned the right to be a little bit cocky, whether it's their success in indie comics or in the mainstream. And so you see, this is funny coming from me because I am technically a smaller creator, right? I don't have a big campaign yet. I've only ran one campaign, but there are some small creators that just have such bones to pick with creators that have had big campaigns. And it boggles my mind that day after day they can push this complaint of elitism. Like, oh, well, these folks are saying that, oh, these comics aren't up to snuff or they're not pro level. And it's like, well, they know what pro level is and they are pro level. They're simply just making an assessment based off of their experience. Be no different than, again, professional basketball player or coach watching a college athlete and being like, you know what? Based on what I'm seeing, they're not up to that level yet. This is what they may need to work on. And you would hope that that college basketball player would take that to heart, right, and try to improve. But what we see in indie comics in a lot of cases are folks, again, just they're pushing quantity and they're just pushing, hype versus trying to make those improvements or trying to make a real splash by making a unique property. And so what I want to do is watch a little bit of EFAP, a little bit of a video that yeah, I've pulled up his tweets before. This won't be a shocker, but I've had some back and forth with him in the past. And this is not to like I'm not taking shots or anything like that, but he likes to bring up the topic of elitism and he likes to claim that he's anti-drama, even though every once in a while he happens to take shots at creators who happen to be bigger creators. And so let's watch a little bit of this video about a tweet around elitism. Let's see here. Find the tab. There we go. All right. So this is by Tyler Draw and Talk, and so it's titled "Elitism and Ego Destroyed the Comics Industry." Let's talk. So I don't agree that uh, ego or elitism destroyed comics at all. I think being generic, having generic creations and creating copy and paste IPs is what's destroying comics. And it's also just a lack of care for quality, especially when it comes to the big two. If they would have continued to pay good money to the top artists who likely have massive egos and wanted to keep the quality level way up here, right, for mainstream comics, if they would have retained them, we wouldn't have seen such a downfall. If they wouldn't have put politics and agendas above quality and above talent, they wouldn't be in this situation. And I think it's the same thing in indie comics. Again, you have creators like Alan Moore, right? Frank Miller, Rob Liefeld, you name it. I have absolutely no issue if they have a huge ego. They've earned it. They need to be paid big bucks. Their books would make big bucks. That's what the mainstream needs. And I would be completely okay if they said, hey, we shouldn't be hiring lower level artists that have not earned their keep and that they have not proven that they have the talent to make books that could last the test of time, that could be considered legendary one day. And if the executives at these companies had more of that mindset or approach, well, I bet you they'd still be thriving. And it'd be the same thing for film. You know, I remember hearing about how, whether it's Tom Cruise or Christian Bale, right? How people would complain about how anal they were on sets, how that things had to be perfect, and how they would push people so hard. But the thing is, their movies reflected that hard work and that mindset and they earned big bucks and they were great films. And we need more film directors, film writers, actors and actresses that give a shit about their like everything being as perfect as possible, or at least trying to make it as perfect as possible. That's how you make a phenomenal film. That's why we're seeing these new superhero films where the CGI looks like shit, where there's plot holes all over the place. It's because there's this lack of attention for detail, right? There's this lack of cohesiveness amongst all the departments and all the different roles within the process of producing a film. You need someone heading the studio or directing a film that is going to oversee everything and look at it like as if he's got a microscope. Like he need that, like that's what we need in every creative space. And that's how art used to be in the past. It was about becoming, and making something legendary and not just trying to make some money or getting clout and attention online. And that's why like I applaud people like Christopher Nolan. They don't even like Christopher Nolan. I think he uses email, but he's like he doesn't use a smartphone. Like he doesn't spend much time on the internet. Like he is so like disconnected from like using modern technology um in terms of distractions, right? He is just 100% about his script and making his films as monumental as possible. That's what we need in mainstream comics. We need people with that mindset, and they've earned that ego, and they've earned that ability to have somewhat of to be elitist to an extent because they're at the top of their game, and everybody that, at that level should be, you know, uh, have should have earned being at that level. Indie comics, however, it's completely different. It's a free for all. Anyone can do indie comics. Anyone can do an indie novel. No one on this planet is saying creator A, B, or C should not be able to create any comic. Okay. And a lot of small creators, they get a lot of grace, as they should, when they create their first book. It's expected that it's not going to be monumental. It's not going to be perfect. They're not going to be able to hire the most talented or expensive artist. That's a given. And no one, like, very rarely do you see people attacking newer creators unless, again, they've attacked others. It's typically a slapback situation or a guilt by association issue. And we've seen this on in previous examples where, someone just invites someone to promote their campaign, may look somewhat amateurish, and people will make fun of them simply because they don't like the host. And that creator is just collateral damage because they don't give a shit about the creators. They care about just attacking those that they don't like. So, honestly, I think we need more elitism and ego in mainstream comics and in film. When it comes to indie comics, you cannot blame the people at the top of their game that are at a professional level for having egos. And they're not elitists. I haven't seen elitists. I really haven't. They just have standards. They're just honest. They will say, hey, that book to me doesn't look that great. This is why. This book does look great. This is why. That's not them saying, hey, they shouldn't be able to make comics or no one should back those campaigns. No, they're just being honest because they look at things through a different lens than just an average backer, right? Or a new creator. So let's check this video. Let me know if there's any issues with the audio, but should be good to go.
A campaign for this book, and it's made me $5,000. And I've sold 500 copies of this. It's just there. It's just living in the add-ons. Like, that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to build up the add-ons so that as more and more people learn about me and learn about my comics, it then comes, and it's going to ebb and flow, and it's okay. Like, oh, I hate that in indie comics we're always talking about numbers. Did they hit 10K? Did they hit 100K? They hit 500. People looking at the Rippaverse like he only hit 200K on that book.
That's a funny pause, but I don't. Why do people take a look at numbers? Well, let's be honest. It can be a gauge for success as well as growth. And I set goals. Everybody sets goals for their campaigns, obviously, right? You have to have a campaign, but you know, everyone has their own personal goals. My first campaign, my goal was the goal on the campaign was only $5,000. My real goal was 10,000 in order to be able to get some extra money, put it into the comic, right? Was blessed enough to get to 15K. That was like a personal stretch goal. And my next campaign, I'm investing a lot more money in. Like, I'm going all out. And so my goal for the campaign is going to be significantly higher than the last one. And my personal goal is going to be significantly higher because that motivates me to work harder, right? To network more, to just get the most out of it. And so if folks are making more campaign after campaign, well, that means they're retaining their backers. That means they're bringing on new backers. That means that their business is healthy and thriving. And for people that are fans of indie comics, of course, even the backers and the people that are observing it are going to look at numbers of campaigns, and yeah, they're going to make a personal assessment of whether they think that, hey, is that creator growing? Are they not growing? Are they stagnant? Right? Things of that nature. There's not always judgment tied to that either, right? It's not like everyone's like, oh, again, oh, that person only made that. Like, no, it's usually folks that are a bit cocky, right? Like Niobe, where they act like, oh, I'm a king in indie comics, right? I've been doing this forever. I have so many campaigns under my belt. I've raised all this money, and it's that ego and cockiness especially when their comics don't look anything phenomenal. That pushes some observers to be like, well, you know what? Your campaigns have been going down over time, or your last one barely made any money. Like, why are you acting so cocky? I mean, you're not at the level that you're acting like you are. And so, yeah, it's just natural. It's just like statistics, right? In any sport, was always obsessed with statistics when it came to basketball, and I still monitor it with the NBA. You're going to look at the statistics of a player year over year to gauge, right? Are they playing better? Are they getting more minutes? Right? If you see a player like going from 20 points per game down to 15 to 10, you're going to be like, well, you know what? Probably not going to be starting sooner. They're probably slowly going to get pushed out of the league. It's no different when you're looking at figures on indie comics. But to be honest, most people are not, paying that close of attention to individual creators unless they themselves are vocal or they are commenting on other people's campaigns, and it ends up being kind of a slap back, like, hey, you're sitting there taking digs at this bigger creator, about how much money they're making or their late campaigns, and then it's like, what about you? you know yeah. Let's see. Now let's talk about unfulfilled campaigns, equality. Yeah, you blocked me on Twitter simply because I still interact with CG. Not because I ever did anything to you, not because I was ever rude, simply because of guilt by association. And you're spending your Thursday night creeping on my chat. Mm, yeah. There's only like a handful of unfulfilled campaigns that I'm even aware of. And you also have to delineate between unfulfilled and late. Right? There are creators that are late that are going to fulfill. That is a different situation than a campaign that's 5+ years old. There's never been an update, and they've just ghosted everybody, and they don't even like interact on Twitter. Those are completely different situations. There are not any active CG people, at least within like my network or whatever, where I can say, yeah, they're never gonna fulfill or they're not giving any updates whatsoever. And yes, some people are taking a couple years specifically because of quality, because they give a crap. Nothing wrong with that. That's between the backers and them. So if you've backed campaigns you have issues with, that's between you and that creator. Request a refund, whatever you want. But if you haven't backed those campaigns, why do you care? Oh, see, and again, this is a problem with indie comics. This is just like Niobe. You just block everyone in CG, which means you don't give a shit about actual comics, right? You don't actually give a shit about quality because you're okay with just blocking an entire segment of indie comics because of who they associate with or what they label themselves as. And it's not like all of us just going around like, oh yeah, we're CG, CG, CG. No, it's just like, yeah, we hang out with CG. Like we hire people within the same space, we promote one another. Like even if it didn't have the label CG, I'd still be interacting with the same people and promoting the same people. There's a reason why I don't promote some people, and there's a reason why I promote some people. Like, if you actually cared about quality, then you would look at every campaign without bias and without worrying about association. You would go based off of the uniqueness and intrigue of the IP and the campaign itself. You wouldn't care about anything else. So that's just sad. And there's too many people like that. And that's I don't know. That's just clogging up indie comics and all the shit discourse on Twitter, in my opinion. What's going on? Hail. You guys can watch all you want behind a block. You're just not allowed to interact anymore. Okay? Yeah, it's your Twitter. I didn't interact with you anyway. I don't know why you're here. It's just funny. Uh, uh. Crazy Cat says, "What will they do when Rainbow the Brute comes out and it's amazing? Cool story, bro. As part of the campaign, that will include Malin's Black Riding Hood." Yeah, I mean, everybody knows it's gonna fulfill. And again, if you're not an actual backer, I don't even know why you're talking about it. Some of these people. Welcome, Frederick. How's it going? I try. I try. See here. I think CG plays well with one another, and I think other indie creators play well with each other. Okay. I mean, people are adults. They can just disassociate with whoever they want in terms of personal relationships and all that, but I don't judge anybody based off of their network or friends. I judge them by their individual actions and words, and how they treat me personally. So, yeah, if I don't get along with someone, I simply don't deal with them, right? Now, if they say something to me or take shots at me, I mean, of course, I'm going to respond at least once. That's natural. But yeah, but I mean, I guess thanks for the watch hours on here and the views. And you're going to miss out on a fantastic book here in the next year or two. But it's clear that it's not about quality for you. It's just about, I guess, dissing CG. Anyways, let's get back to this EFAP a little bit.
Book, it's like, bro, having worked in the
Bro.
publishing industry, any book that breaks like $10,000 in sales is a hit that month. The majority of like books barely will hit like 300 like physical copies in sales. So the fact that, that the Rippaverse is doing still like a consistent 100,000 to 500,000 per campaign. It's like, guys, that is fantastic. I just hate that we're judged. How many backers did you get? What's your goal? It's like that. Like, I hate that that's a focus, and it is one problem with indie.
Thing is, I don't think you'd have a problem with it if your campaigns were going well and you were feeling confident about your campaigns. Um, I don't see why it's an issue. I mean, some people are going to keep track of that stuff and pay attention to it, but honestly, most people are going to look at the individual campaign and they're going to decide, does this look really good or not? And they're going to back it or they're not. They're not going to go look at the history of all of the campaigns they've had in the past and how much money they've raised to decide whether or not they're going to back the current campaign. Now, creators themselves, they may take a look at the history of the creator out of curiosity, right? To just see like, oh, how they performed in the past. What's working for them, what's not working for them, because you can use that for your campaign, right? You can use that to see. I mean, you need to pay attention to what other creators are doing to see what works for them, what doesn't work for them, whether it's how they set up their Indiegogo page, the genre, their comic, the presentation that they do, the type of content that they're doing on YouTube, right? That's you need to pay attention of what other people are doing to see what's working for them, what's not working for them, so that you can apply that to your own project and your own marketing. So it's normal for creators to pay attention to the performance of other creators, right? It's just like, again, I'm going back to sports. NBA players will watch how other NBA players play so that they can learn from it and apply it to their own game. See, that doesn't make any sense. Like, I get it if you don't like some creators. Strictly don't buy from them then. Why would you purposely miss out on some fantastic campaigns and content just because you don't like certain individuals. Like, do you do that for mainstream films? Right? If there's one actor that you don't like or one writer that you don't like, are you going to purposely not watch a film that looks really good? I mean, just because you don't, let's say you don't like liberalism, are you just going to avoid any actor or director or film that has liberalism connected to it? Well, if that's the case, you're not going to be able to watch anything. And that would be ridiculous because you'd be missing out on good content and entertainment. Yeah. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. That's awesome.
Comics, because we use crowdfunding, and a big aspect of crowdfunding is putting out the numbers publicly, so that you can be like, we got to rally to the end to get more money and get more backers. It's just part of it. Caffeinated Wolf, welcome. Hail, and shout out to all your success from your grinding. Hey, thank you so much. I am grinding. I'm grinding. I'm trying to turn down the grinding, actually, because I'm trying to focus on this other business I'm building out. But I'm surviving. I can't wait to end Super Plumber Sisters and Bullet Assassin this year. I'm no idea. Where's Peppermint Reloaded on your schedule, bro? Like, not there. I want to do it. I'm really trying to like tone it down in comics. Like,
So, and this is not something I guess specific to him, but one of the, I think, potential detriments to some indie comics creators, especially ones that are not, let's say, top tier or they don't have a huge following, so they're just trying to do too many IPs or projects at once. And I think he eventually kind of makes a comment about it, but it's like, I don't think they're squeezing all the juice out of the orange when it comes to each individual campaign. So they're leaving money on the table, in my opinion. And they're also putting resources all over the place, right? And funds all over the place versus just focusing and making one like phenomenal book, right? Something truly unique that you could really make an investment in and try to make a real splash. Instead, you're just making, you know, I don't know, little droplets in the pool essentially, with just like this little campaign here, there, potentially mediocre books, just kind of, things that blend in with the rest of the campaigns on Kickstarter or Indiegogo. And that's going to make it really hard to grow. Like, yeah, you may have some stability, just kind of raising the same amount of money over and over on several campaigns, but it's like it almost like seems like he's not even enjoying it. Like it's almost like it's a hassle. Um because it's just like, oh, I gotta finish this project, and I gotta finish this project, and I gotta market this project, but I didn't market this one as hard because I was too busy with this, and I have this and that. It's like I just don't think that's a great strategy in my opinion. Yes, it gives you more books to try to sell after the campaign is closed if you have a website. Possibly it could help you on some catch-up tiers, but the thing is, in my opinion, right, especially if you have a series, it should be easier to make more money on your second and third campaign because you can have a catch-up tier. You have more content for new backers to buy. Instead of buying one book, they could buy two or three, right? It should help give your campaign more fuel. But it's just unfortunate to see some creators just trying again, focusing on the quantity aspect versus like, hey, let's put all of our time and effort, right, and all of our heart into one campaign and make it really stand out. And then you see the indie space with just so many books that are just they just wash each other out because they all look the same, and it's just I don't know, but like that just seemed like I don't know. I had such a blast even with my last campaign, marketing it, getting on channels, and just busting my ass to see like how high can I build this campaign? Can I get to 10? Can I get to 15? And I'm so glad I did that because if I would have put more focus on something else, I mean, yeah, I probably wouldn't have gotten my story in front of as many people, and I wouldn't have that extra money to put towards line art right now to get this new campaign off the ground and again put as much into that as possible. Like it should be a blast. It should be fun, especially if you're succeeding. It shouldn't feel like a something that's draining, you know. Let's see here, let's check in with the chat here. Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, if it's not your type of content, but I think CG has a pretty diverse portfolio of types of creations. Unless you're looking for cheesecake, just like boobs in your face, manga looking stuff, then yeah, CG isn't your place. Because yeah, that's not my cup of tea. Like this stuff here is just not my cup of tea at all. Even though the artist on this is really really good, I'm just not a fan of that type of book at all. And I also think it's kind of a lot of the covers are kind of bait, you know, like I don't know. I don't know. I want my backers to be intrigued by the storyline and the characters, not a character's assets. Exactly. Most of the people are not actual backers. They're just mad that those people are succeeding, or they're jealous that they're not at their level in terms of funding and all of that. So
I have this other business that I'm growing. It's taking up my time. Like during the day, I barely get to actually work on it because I'm trying to manage all of my employees and stuff. And then when the day is done, the things that will actually move my business forward, I typically do them at night, which means I'm not drawing as much. And like I want to get back to drawing the Growth of Megafist. Like I drew chapter 1 this week of volume 5, so chapter 51 technically, and so much fun, had a blast. I'm like, man. And what I learned is it takes me a day to do the sketches, and then takes me two days to do the pencils, and then it only takes me another 2 days to do the inks, and then it would probably take me like 3 hours to do the gray tones. So like really, I could bust out a chapter a week of the Growth of Megafist. I just don't have that time because I've got to split my time between finishing up my Sexy Witch Academia. I still have I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more pages of that book to complete, and then once I'm done with that, I've got to put my attention over Super Plumber Sisters.
Like this is like all over the place. Like that just doesn't. I don't know. Do not recommend that strategy of like working on 5 different projects and just trying to launch one after the other, unless you can do it for a living, like it's your full-time job. But if you have a day job and stuff, like man, try to draw as much attention to one project and IP, get as many backers as possible so that you can transfer them to the next campaign, right? Build that mailing list, and then maybe you can try to do maybe 2 at the same time. But then again, you know, you're splitting the resources that you have financially into 2 different projects versus like, hey, let's consolidate it into one and just try to get the highest, you know, quality line artists out there, for example. So yeah, he'll eventually get to the elitism thing.
Or so I can end that series, and then after that I get
Why
my
sped
attention
it
to Bullet
up?
Assassin 3. So I'm like constantly juggling these series. I'm like, okay, how do I just slow down? Which sucks because I want to do Peppermint Reload. Like it's such a fun story. I want to get into it so bad, so bad. What I'm hoping for, honestly, is like once I take out Super Plumber Sisters and then I take out Bullet Assassin, I can maybe just like release Peppermint Reloaded in like just in like graphic novels, like 60, 70 page graphic novels. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, guys, go check out Blackjack Duelist. The artist is fantastic. Jose Garcia, I mean, just freaking killing it. You know, just murdering it with this art. We got some great covers.
Like really? Like I don't know. I'm not even gonna. I think you saw it enough. But again, some of those covers, and then there's like looks like I don't know if they're nude covers or not, but like yeah, no comment.
We have a pencil edition of the book that's like over 40 pages. We have the Kickstarter exclusive like 52 card deck. I mean, how many of those have we sold?
Hello.
What's your name? Stupid cunt.
I named Tom.
There we go.
You know, cover A, you know, put it in the moves. Super lucrative. It's just one of those like, can I lock down on that? All right, let's get into this. Now everyone, we've got 11 viewers. Howdy. I saw this tweet. This is from Nicholas Mueller, but he scraped it out, you know, because we don't want to feed trolls. But basically, someone put, "What credentials does Eric even have to work in comics or in any business?" Answer is none. And Nicholas goes, you know, readers decide if people demand your work, then nothing else matters. You know, there's this like big problem. And then, you know, this kind of brought me into retweeting. Gosh, I got so many freaking tabs. What the F? This got me into then retweeting it, saying there is an elitism problem in comics. It's a culture, I believe, and it says, honestly, I believe that because of this elitism culture, that's why the medium is seen as unfriendly to newcomers. So here's an experience that I had.
Okay. So I kind of touch on this, but, in my opinion, you got to separate mainstream comics from indie comics. Mainstream comics needs to be extremely picky when it comes to quote unquote newcomers, right? When it comes to talent, they should be making sure that the talent is up to snuff and that they're actually cultivating a talent pool that can get up to the level of Jay Lee, of all these folks, of Liefeld, of Miller, of any known name. You need to be trying to find the next one that can get up to that level, versus just they can do a good enough job, right? Their art's okay enough. It can get some books on the shelves. That's the problem. They need to be extremely, extremely picky. Indie comics is not unfriendly to newcomers at all. I am proof of that. The fact that all of you guys are here right now is proof of that. So many people were welcoming to me, and I don't even have a full comic issue published yet, right? I was doing novels and a mini comic in the comic space, and folks were so freaking welcoming. So many creators were welcoming, gave me advice, spent time talking to me, brought me on their channel, right? Retweeted me, promoted me, right? So welcoming. Just because one person made an off the cuff comment about a big indie creator does not mean that that should be applied to the rest of indie comics as if, oh yeah, there's a bunch of, I don't know, readers that are just not welcoming to new creators. No, that's not the case. The readers are the ones that are making it possible for these books to get funded. The biggest problem in the space are the folks that are pushing anti-crowdfunding nonsense, right? And are trying to damage big creators, medium creators, and small creators alike. That's the issue. And there are some of them that align with, fans of the person that, is being criticized in that original tweet. But again, it's just some random comment by a random person on Twitter. It does not indicate the general consensus for Twitter or indie comics at all. But yeah, there's not an elitism problem in indie comics at all, because there's plenty of bigger channels that invite smaller creators on there. Even if the quality's not like top tier, they still want to give them a chance. They still want them to be able to prove themselves that they can improve over time, because that's what it's all about.
This is my story. I went on a stream with the creator and we were talking about comics that we like. And I'm a very big I love crime noir comics. I love black and white crime noir comics. That's why, like, if I ever do a Batman comic, I want to lean more into like the crime aspect of Gotham. I've got like a whole, like, I just love crime noir. I love like the inks. I just got done reading, like, what's it called? Polar. They made a movie with it. Very minimalist noir style. I don't know how I felt about it. I've got Parker, great graphic novel series. But my point is like, I love crime noir, and so I'm on the stream and I'm saying like, hey, like, I really love and I'm gonna fuck this up. I don't care. I was like, I really love the works of Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips, and this particular creator is on the stream with me, and we're duking it out. But he's like, you said his name wrong. It's Brubaker, and I'm like, all right, whatever. Like Brubaker, like whatever. Brubaker. I've never heard him talk. I've never heard him say it. Like I look at the spelling, I go Brubaker, whatever. I don't give a fuck how you say it. I've got every single one of his graphic novels on my freaking bookshelf. And what happened was later on, me and this creator, we're duking it out, and they called me a tourist, and I was like, the fuck, because I hate being called a tourist. Oh, it angers me so much.
You can call it tourist is like nothing in the Twitter world, or in interactions. Like, man, so many of us have been called so much worse. Like, I don't even know why you'd take that much offense to that, but um, mm, mm.
Because I'm like, what do you mean I'm a tourist? Who are you to say that, like, who's a tourist and who's not? And their evidence of me being a tourist was the fact that I said Ed's last name wrong, because a real comic book fan would have known that's Ed Brubaker, not Ed Brubaker, or whatever it was. And because of like this, they were like, yeah, me and my group of friends were like, yeah, this guy's definitely a fucking tourist because he doesn't even know how to say these creators' names. And it just got me going, like, okay, so like that's where we're at now. Because we can't say the names properly, we're not a fan. Like I read.
That's like one person that made that comment. Again, that's not a consensus at all for the entire comic space. I doubt. I mean, yeah, there's some people that are obsessed with comics, right? Where they may be like, oh, you don't know this creator, you don't know that creator, you know, then you're not an expert. Well, yeah, I mean, most of us are not experts, right? Most of us are not pros in the space. Um, I doubt there's very few of us that would actually say that, we're not, I don't know, amateurs or whatever. We'd be honest about the level that we're at, or that we're just new to the space even. And look, I'm sure I'll get plenty of shit, and I have already, that I came into comics very, very late. My whole life was sports growing up. I grew up on a farm in the middle of nowhere. There were no comic shops around. So I never came across comics. I didn't have cable TV. I had regular TV. I think the only thing I saw on TV was every once in a while, like Spider-Man cartoon, right? Or the old Lou Ferrigno Hulk. But most of my time was just watching sports. That's what people in the Midwest do. And so I didn't really get exposed to comics until I was in college. And I didn't even get exposed to comics per se. I got exposed to comic book characters. Once I got exposed to Smallville, and it's funny how I kind of got interested in comics. I got in a really, really bad accident when I was going into my senior year of high school. And so I couldn't do anything for about 6 months. I could go on some short walks, but I couldn't even use my right arm for 6 months. So all I could do was like sit around. Wasn't much of a reader at that age. And so my brother had bought me like the first 3 seasons of Smallville. And so the one fortunate thing of having nothing to do was, because I couldn't even play video games, right? Because I couldn't use my right hand even. I just sat there and binged it. And it was such a phenomenal show for that time period when it came out, right? Early 2000s or whatnot. And it made me just fall in love with, escapism, with some of these character creations. I love how they portrayed Cyborg, Aquaman, of course, Clark Kent, Flash, Green Arrow. Like it spurred this interest for me. And then, I went to college and I just started collecting some comics here and there, but I didn't really start reading them yet because I was just crazy busy. All I did was, work, study, sleep, repeat, and work out. And I competed in bodybuilding at that time. And so, but then superhero films started being the craze, right? You had all those Marvel films and eventually Man of Steel, which that's what really kickstarted my deep interest, and then in all the Snyder films and all that, right? And that's when I started collecting comics more seriously and started reading some. And that's when I started writing my novels. But I didn't really get passionate about it until I got my first commissioned piece of art by Corey. seeing your own character come to life per se on paper is such a unique experience compared to seeing someone else's creations on the big screen or on paper. And that just gave me this, I don't know, urge to see all of my characters, hence the mini comic. And now it's like I need to see the story play out from start to finish in comic book form. And that the start of that process is what really made me study comics, not just read them for enjoyment, but study them, right? Pay attention to the finer details, really, really absorb the dialogue, the inner monologue. That's what made me want to make the best comic possible with my resources and with my reach. And if someone said I was a tourist, I'd just be like, I mean, I guess I could see why people might think that, but I care, and all I care about is making the best book possible. I'm late to the game, but it also motivates me to be again a dark horse in the space to be like, hey, it doesn't matter if you read comics your whole life. It doesn't matter if you've been writing your whole life. It matters. What matters is your passion, your attention to detail, and how much you give a shit, right? And so it just motivates me to be that guy that creates a fantastic book. Maybe has a really, you know, a campaign that gets a really high funding so that like I can tell folks like, hey, you can do it too. And so that, when so that I can also say to all the folks that doubted me and gave me shit like, hey, eat your own words. So it's a motivator as well. But yeah, just I don't know. I would never get that offended by being called a tourist personally.
Manga,
I wouldn't consider someone an elitist either for calling me a tourist. Some people are just they've been in it their whole lives. They know everything about all the characters and all the series and IPs. It's a big chunk of their life. I could understand why they would have kind of a different mindset towards others, given that I was late to the game. And I would have been the same way when it came to basketball as a kid, because it was literally my entire life. So yeah, I may have been similar in terms of like someone being really cocky about basketball, and then you watch them play, and you're just like, mm, or I don't know, but
barely say any of these people's names, which is why I stopped doing like manga content, because I would get roasted in the comments. People like, yo, dude, you said the name wrong. And I'm like, I'm fucking sorry. I don't know how to say these names. I can barely say the creators' names, but I read a ton. I read a ton of comics. I read a ton of manga and webtoons. I just don't know how to pronounce a lot of these people's names. And apparently that makes you a tourist if you don't know it. But like, the point is like, imagine if I'm not as strong and bulletproof I am against these gays that I can't, like, that would hurt my feelings. Like, imagine if I went, oh, they're like, you're not a real fan because you said the name wrong. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I guess I'm not a real fan. Like, to me, that's what.
all right. So I do want to address some of the comments here. So let's see here. Yeah. The ridiculous bullshit you've dealt with is levels worse than being called a tourist. Jeez. Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Yes, I do agree. Politics have definitely ruined comics. They've been a detriment to every creative space, especially TV and films. Absolutely. Yep. All right. So this one, if CG wants more readers, buyers, excuse me, I got the hiccups. It isn't doing a good job in the endeavor when there's a perceived leader, and nice phrasing there, perceived leader, exactly, perceived, and that's a you problem in having that perception. It's not reality, and nobody stands up to he, she on disagreements. Guilt by association tends to apply. Hmm. Stands up to he, she on disagreements. You have to realize that many of us haven't had actual disagreements with him or this person or that person, right? I mean, we know who you're referring to, but the thing is, I don't need to comment on other people's beefs if I don't want to, or their, I don't know, personal issues with one another. Some folks choose to get involved, comment, and all of that, but most of us do not. Um, and even if I disagree with them on something, like if it doesn't impact me or I don't think that it's vital to talk about it, I just don't talk about it. Like no one should be forced to make comments on any particular situation. And so the whole guilt by association thing is absurd again. And again, like let's say EVS for example, me and him disagree when it comes to Snyderverse films, like wholeheartedly. But I don't like get upset or offended when it comes to his opinion on those films. And I'm sure that we could even have a stream and respectfully disagree and walk away having absolutely no issues with one another. But again, these interactions where folks have had issues, they go a lot deeper than most people realize. And if I haven't been involved in the situation, I haven't seen the conversations or personally involved, I'm not going to stick my nose in it and make judgments if I don't have the context. So I'm going to basically judge people based off of my interaction with them and what I've seen and experienced since I've been in the space. So, but I do think many of us are doing a good job in getting more backers and gaining backers over time. Again, Aaron Immortal Rising's done a great job. Patrick Quinlan, Richard Embree. There's been a lot of guys that are just busting their ass, putting out quality books and being respectful to backers and to other creators and promoting one another. And so, I think many of us are leading by example, and hopefully more will do that over time as well. And the creative space will grow and the reader base will grow. We'll see. Yeah, that is true. his his chat does not hold back when they disagree in a lot of cases. Hmm. Yep, that's true. Let's see. He's El Jamil says the ones that disagree in Ethan's chat wouldn't publicly admit they bought and enjoyed a Rippaverse book. They would be afraid of being singled out and mocked. Peer pressure is real. No, I don't think that's the case. There are people that he goes back and forth with, quite respectfully. Um, there are people that support both Riververse and EVS, and he doesn't like give them shit or anything like that. He wants to retain his backers, but I also don't think there's a lot of EVS's backers that have enjoyed Rippaverse books. So you have to take that into consideration. There is a chance most of his backers, if they've read Rippaverse books, that they are not a fan. What I've read so far, I'm not a fan. Has absolutely nothing to do with what he thinks about it. So they are going up for some creators. Um, I don't know about overall backers. I mean, there's no way to know, I guess, overall backers really. Um, and again, you don't know which people have stopped backing because of guilt by association versus not having money. Again, times are very different compared to 3 years ago or 6 years ago. Um, so yeah, but again, creators just need to do what they need to do, and not be focused on what other creators are doing so much. Yes, thank you, Eric, for sharing all these campaigns. Definitely go back phenomenon number 2. We're going to be pulling that up here in a little bit, as well as Blood and the Sword issue 2. I can't comment on super chats. I don't get them. I can't get them. And again, some people it's part of their business to get super chats, and you can't necessarily blame them, right? It's part of making a living. So, yeah, yeah, that's true. And I'm a mod as well. I can say that that's true. There are people in there that are a fan of both. So, yeah. Yeah, I gotta add some mods. I can't do it from StreamYards. At least I don't think I can. So I need to basically go back after the stream is over, and once the comments or the live chat is loaded, then I can go in and individually do that. So I need to remember to do that. That's for sure.
Hurts people. That's what maybe sets them to go like, oh, like I don't want to get into this industry. Oh, I don't want to read comics because there's all this bullying, there's all this elitism, there's this ego of like I'm better than you, I know more comics than you.
Okay. So that is a wild notion. And I've heard this from some people before, that there's this idea that some creators are going to be too scared, or potential creators are going to be too scared to come into the space because of the bullying. I don't know of any just new creator that has never taken shots at anybody that is just being attacked for no reason out of the blue, unless it's because they're getting attacked because of guilt by association, because they went on a promo stream and folks didn't like the person that's, the head of the channel, which that's just bullshit, right? But that is rare as well. And I've only seen it with, folks that have joined CG streams, but like, why would you be afraid to join the indie comic space? It's very easy to navigate, not get pulled into drama, not get involved in fights and all of that. It's not that complicated. If you're an adult, you know how to navigate relationships and being around people. That's like, I don't know, I think that's such a, it's being so hyperbolic to say that there's creators that just they're afraid to join the space because they feel like they're going to get bullied. Like, I have not witnessed that at all. And there's very few people out there saying, or like attacking people because they don't know comics enough. Again, very few people have made comments about me being new to the space or being a tourist. It's only been some anti-CG people like Niobe that say that crap, and I just laugh because I just see the state of their business, and it's like, okay, buddy, but
I remember getting heated with the creator. I remember one time this is when Larry and I were like on our bad spell. And Larry was like, dude, you're a tourist because you haven't read like the works of like Todd McFarlane or Ed Eric Larson when they were in Marvel. And I was like, bitch, I wasn't even born. Like, of course I didn't read it. I wasn't born. I'm a tourist because I read Neil Gaiman's Sandman and was like, that thing fucking sucked. I hated it. And so like, it's one thing for comic book creators to like bash each other and what we like and have a fun time with that. Then you're a comic fan, name every comic. Exactly. But yeah, it's to me, it's like that's nuts. Like that there's these rules that you can say, hey, if you didn't read A, B, and C, like, oh, you don't know that Detective Comics number 27 is the first appearance of Batman, like you are definitely you're not tourist. It's like that's like super niche knowledge. Spider-Man actually didn't come in. It was actually Amazing Fantasy, blah blah. Like actually Batman number 1 was the first appearance of Robin. It's like shit like that is what makes people go, ew, I don't want to read comics. That's gay. Like stuff like that makes people go, ew, that sucks. Dakar the Professor, thank you for the $6. Can't stay, Tyler, but here's some love. Keep being inspiring. Hey, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. Or if you can name the issue number of everything, you're a tourist. I'm horrible at remembering numbers. I mean, yeah. I remember someone called me a tourist because I said I enjoyed the new 52 Batman, and they're like, oh, but that's not actually Batman. You got to read like I was gonna say the Neil.
I don't know. I haven't gotten in that many arguments about comics, to be quite frank, and I don't think most people argue about comics or legacy comics in the indie comic space. Really, if they are, it's more about like, oh, who do you think's a better writer or artist, and it's comes down to their perceived quality of their content versus like comics history and all of that. And if someone is that obsessed, like it's like these people that are obsessed with hating certain film franchises and stuff. You pretty much just realize there's no point in having a conversation with them. Like, especially me coming from being a huge Snyderverse fan, right? There's people that can have just logical, respectful conversations. And then there's people that just can't be reasoned with. Like they will never admit that there's anything good about any aspect of a Snyderverse film, right? And after you've made like one comment and you see the response, you should be able to, as an adult, realize like, you know what, it's not worth furthering the discourse. Let's just move on. Like, let's just toss that whole thing in the trash. And it's like, how do you keep getting in those arguments? Is kind of my question. Um, like, why even have the conversations at all? Like, what does that have to do with what you're trying to achieve in comics? I don't know. Just kind of strange.
Patrick is Batman. But because of this stuff, it's very disheartening for people to want to get into comics. Mr. M Nemesis, people make rules because that's how we are. But I agree with your point. Some fans act like deranged fanatics. Yeah, I agree. Like people make rules because that's how agreed. Manga fans are just as bad. Oh yeah, for sure. Manga fans are just as bad. I definitely think there's certain fandoms. The nice thing about manga fans though is that there's enough groups that you can kind of find your pocket in. Whereas with comics, I feel like there is just a lot of like an older generation of fans who have no problems just pushing away a younger generation. Whereas, maybe you're like, I like shonen battle stuff, and they're like, fuck you, and you go, okay, I'm just gonna go read a hentai or something. I don't know. Jose Garcia, bureaucracy is feminine and repealing. It happens everywhere. You're not punk because you don't listen to X or Y. Great way to become a Karen. Yeah, exactly. Manga fans are sectioned off better. But there's sections. There's more than one section. You can go to different fandoms within.
So again, I think this is a situation where you have to separate mainstream comics from indie comics. Backers of indie comics, from my experience and observation, they're not going. Their opinions on mainstream comics or how obsessed they are with mainstream comics are not going to impact their decision of backing an indie comic. And if they're absolutely obsessed with current day mainstream comics, they're likely not even backing indie comics, right? Most indie comic backers are kind of being phased out of mainstream comics because they've lost interest because of the poor quality, poor storytelling, right? Hence why indie comics have grown in the last 10, 15 years. So they really aren't even thinking about that stuff. They're just looking for new books, new IPs that they can be interested in, and that's it. It has absolutely nothing to do about how particular they are about mainstream comics or their knowledge of mainstream comics. Like they need to be separated. So again, even if there are people that believe like, oh, these people are tourists because they don't know enough about comics, those people likely have nothing to do with indie comics, or those conversations won't even be had because indie comic creators are focused on their own IPs, promoting their own books, and getting it in front of backers. They're not worried about obsessing over legacy mainstream comics or even modern mainstream comics outside of making some commentary here and there.
Within manga. Whereas with comics, there's really not much of that. Dragon Ball fandom will eat you up and spit you out. Oh yeah, I remember. I'm trying to think of like a really toxic fan base that. Oh, Chainsaw Man fans.
Well, that's enough of that. But so the main topic I wanted to talk about, but kind of got derailed by an agitator. That happens, but at least he's been pretty respectful, so I'll give him that. What's destroying comics? What's destroying film? What's destroying art? What's destroying culture to an extent is generic minds. Minds that they don't care enough about making the best product. They don't care about making the best art, the best comic, the best film. They just want a quick buck, right? They want to go into a space and extract as much money as quickly as possible or clout and attention. And that's the focus. Their focus is not having their name remembered, right? Or having their IP remembered. Unlike people like Alan Moore or Frank Miller, all the legendary creators, right? They weren't just trying to quickly finish a book, right? They put their heart and soul into it, and they became legends because of it. Same thing again with filmmakers, right? Such as Quentin Tarantino, uh, Christopher Nolan, you name it, Spielberg, right? They all cared about the details. The details mattered, making the best film, the best comic, etc. possible. And even executives at these companies, they shared that same mindset. That's not the case these days. Um, you know, whether it's because the creators themselves or the executives are more focused on virtue signaling, right? Pushing political or religious agendas, you name it. That is muddying up what the real heart and soul of the creative spaces are. And it's bleeding into indie comics as well. I mean, you're getting some political stuff, of course, naturally in indie comics, but I think that laziness is the issue, right? It's not just like putting agendas above all else, things of that nature, but it is this, how do I just make as many books as possible? How quickly can I do this? Which again, that's the whole quantity over quality mindset. But it's, well, I love Superman. I'm gonna make another Superman. He's gonna have like the same powers, but I'm gonna change his costume. Like I'm just going to do copy and paste. And we see way too many of these campaigns where it's just like it's the Flash with a new costume design and his abilities are a little bit different. It's just Superman. It's just Luke Cage. It's just this, but a little bit different. And you have to wonder, it's like, are they doing it because they just want to make some money on the campaign? Because it's hard to believe that they're that passionate about that specific creation because it's more so that they're just passionate about the original creation that their character or story was based off of versus that passion to create their own IP or character that can become as legendary as those creations that inspired them. And if we had more folks that were focused on creating the best story, the most unique characters as possible, well, it would bring more backers into the space. And these folks would have more lucrative campaigns and they would be sticking around longer. And we are seeing some folks create some IPs and storylines that are succeeding and they're growing over time, or they've lasted 10 plus years, but not a lot. And again, I'm talking about people that, right, they've earned that ego, they've already been successful, they've already got their name stamped on mainstream comics, they're in indie comics, or right, they've created an awesome unique IP in indie comics, and became known because of it, not because they were famous from politics or famous from another endeavor, and then transferred those pre-cultivated, followers into customers. That's to me, that's got to be kind of separated out. Um, but yeah, and well, right. Well, if we're going to talk about YouTubers, let's be honest. Typically, those YouTubers that do commentary and critique of films, books, comics, etc., have a habit of making the most generic looking creations possible, but having the ability to hype them up. Um, you know, obviously, Ripperverse. There's a lot of people that share that sentiment about that. When you look at critical drinkers, mini film or whatever, like it was like there's just nothing about it that is unique or that really stands out. And it didn't look like all the potential resources or brain power out there was put into it. But they knew they had reach and that they could make money from it. And I'm not throwing shade at people making money. The problem is when the financial success gets muddied up with creative success, right? They are not one and the same. A financially successful creation does not equate to a quality creation. We know that with Captain Marvel and plenty of films and creations out there that were not actually good, but they made a lot of money. It'd be marvelous if some of these people with reach and connections could actually, it'd be awesome if someone could make a phenomenal indie comic or a phenomenal indie film that could just bring this rush of backers and lifeblood into the space, but it hasn't happened yet. Honestly, I can't think of anything that stands out where you're like, wow, that actually wowed me. That looks phenomenal. Most of it looks run of the mill, looks too similar to legacy creations, unfortunately. And I think that some indie creators, again, that are brand new, have no reach, are also trying to duplicate what those YouTubers are doing. That's why you have so many copycat YouTubers that are doing the same shtick of these of becoming complaint tubers, right? Just bashing on films, looking for only negative aspects with the same just cringe, lazy, immature thumbnails, right? There's just so many on every level, just trying to follow the same formula where you have thousands of creators doing the same thing. No unique approach, no unique commentary. It's just, hey, I want to do that because I want to have their follower base. I want to be famous. I want to be known in the same manner, not because my content is unique and amazing. And sadly, I think there's some indie creators that are doing the same thing based off of what those YouTubers are doing with their indie books or indie films. Because again, they're seeing, oh, I want to make that money. I want to be well known because I made a bunch of money, right? Or I got a lot of followers, not because I made such an amazing book that people can't stop talking about it. So we need more people to just focus on creating something unique, something intriguing, something that stands out, because that's what's made legends in the past, is by doing that. And if anyone wants to break out of the indie space and become known or break into the mainstream, whatever, that's what you got to do if you're not famous beforehand. So, yeah. But thankfully, there are people doing that, and that's my goal, right? I'm not trying to copy any existing property. I made my character is unique. The storyline unique. The art is absolutely going to be unique, even for the indie space. But that's why I'm being patient and waiting for that artist to be available. Because, yeah, sure, I could already have a book done now, but would that art stand out? Would I feel like the story and the characters are being, I don't know, fully respected and fully utilized? So that's why I'm not going to rush it. Like if I just wanted to make some money, yeah, I could push it out there. Just use whoever, but I'm not going to do that. I would rather make less money and have a phenomenal book than make a bunch of money based off of hype or something. But yeah, I don't know. That's just me. But I know there's other folks in the space that are like that. Again, Aaron, Patrick, and so many others. So yeah. All right, let's dive into some BA recommends. All right. So my first recommendation is going to be an indie comic, and that is Blood and the Sword, issue 2. Pull that up here. All right. So I'm going to pull up the actual campaign page because it is available now, and I think the physical copies are going to be shipping pretty soon. The digital copies just went out last week, so it's kind of nice to be able to read it and promote it at the same time. So read this today, and again, just like the first issue, it was very, very enjoyable. Definitely a popcorn, type of comic issue where it's just fun, witty, has some great dialogue and jokes throughout it, and it just keeps you intrigued throughout. And it's definitely something that's also all ages, which is great. I know, Richard, I call him Richard Hombre. Richard Hombre, he wrote this book with his daughter. They created the characters together, which is was really awesome. And it's made for adults and kids alike. And the art did improve, I think, a little bit over compared to book one. The coloring was really great, and again, the writing and the story flows very well from book one to book two. And there's some nice little kind of inside jokes in there as well. But it's a 20-page fully colored comic, and yeah, it was just a fun read. And that's, I know, what his intention was the whole time, was just to have a fun book that everyone can enjoy with some unique characters. And again, Mango is obviously his most unique and fun character there. And yeah, it's extremely affordable too. He's one of those guys that he didn't come into the space and say, hey, you know what, all the other people are overpriced, and so I'm going to give you the book cheaper because and do it all in a virtue signaling type of manner. No, he's just like, hey, I want to get myself in front of as many backers as possible. I'm going to do a campaign in a manner that I do not lose money, right? That I can still make some extra money, but I can capture as many backers as possible. And he's done a very good job in doing that. And he wants to get the story that he did with his daughter again out in front of people. So, and he's again a creator that also promotes other people and has been very helpful to others. So definitely back this. The digital comic is only $5. You'll be getting it, I think, right away. Essentially, physical comic is only $5, so you might as well just get both. I think the shipping is also very cheap as well, so you can't beat that. There's also T-shirts, and there's like a catch-up tier for a digital bundle. So again, there's just literally no reason not to pick this up, especially given the cost. And yeah, it's just a fun storyline that I think almost anybody would enjoy. So definitely recommend this and go check that out. The second recommendation is actually going to be music. I need to do music more often in terms of recommendations. Unfortunately, like I don't think I can actually play any music because of copyright stuff and all that. But just to give you guys kind of an idea of some music to check out, I recommend Existential by Justin Hawks. So this would be for anybody that's a fan of drum and bass music. And this is a very unique drum and bass album. Super, super enjoyable. It's got some kind of more emotional tones to it, if that makes sense. To some of the tracks, he's also a composer, so it's got some more instrumental kind of vibes to it. But very, very cool album for any folks that like drum and bass. So folks of Pendulum and things of that nature. So I've been blessed in this music in the gym for quite some time now. But yeah, definitely recommend checking this out. So it's on Spotify, obviously on YouTube. So that's my music recommendation for the week. My TV recommendation for the week, which shouldn't come as a surprise, is Punisher season 2. And you're probably wondering, like, why are you recommending this now? Well, it was the last, I think it was the last Netflix series that Marvel had. Um, Maybe Jessica Jones season 3 came out after this, but after they ended Daredevil and they had Defenders and they ended Iron Fist, I was just kind of like, man, what a bummer. And I also unfortunately fed into some of the bullshit that the complaint tubers were pushing all those years ago, right? That they were making right wingers look bad, making religion look bad, but honestly, no. No, this was a very realistic storyline in terms of just powerful, corrupted politicians utilizing horrible people to do horrible things to retain and gain power, which is extremely realistic, whether it's on the right or on the left, because there are horrible people on both sides doing horrible things because of power. And so now that Daredevil Born Again is out on Disney Plus, which I have been watching and I have been enjoying it. I'll do a review of it. Other than the first episode, I'm really enjoying it. So I'm like, I got to go back. I got to watch season 2 of Punisher because he's in Born Again. And man, am I glad I watched it. I mean, the first season was great, but this one has two converging plot points that build over time, and they did just such a good job with the plot point or storyline of Billy Russo, as well as just that crazy, you know basically a religious nut job, but just pure Punisher, just fantastic action scenes. um Bernthal is just fantastic as Punisher. I mean, if only we could have a a Punisher film with the quality of the Netflix series. I don't know. I haven't kept up on if they're going to do a Punisher season on Disney, but man, the Marvel series was just phenomenal. So for anyone that has not watched the Punisher series that was on Netflix, definitely watch this if you're a fan of gritty vigilantes. Um, and if you're a fan of this, you will be a fan of the Vigilantes Creed novel series and the comic. So let's just watch the trailer, do a little bit of commentary on that. So yeah, shouldn't have any copyright issues because just kind of doing some commentary. But for folks that have not watched this should give you a reason to watch this.
Why did you help me in the bar that night?
What was I supposed to do? I had to get involved. Here's what it is, I guess.
Definitely has some unique, like gnarly killing scenes. So yeah, it's a fun watch. Sometimes it's like, ooh, that's a rough scene, but very, very, very good.
It's almost like you were happy for the excuse.
Who are those people?
I don't know.
I think you're hiding something.
Like I said, Bernthal was casted perfectly, but the villains were also casted very well. I mean, this and Daredevil on Netflix were both just, man, that was top notch superhero TV. I mean, after of course Smallville. I mean, first 2 seasons of Arrow and Flash were fantastic too, but then they went to shit, and you know the Marvel series were just, man, that was so much fun to have Daredevil, Punisher. I really enjoyed Iron Fist, quite honestly, and then Defenders. Jessica Jones, I enjoyed the first season. Second season, I did like. I didn't watch the third because I'm just not a fan of the Jessica Jones character. She's just annoying, too much whining, complaining. Like I don't know. It got old after a while, but all the rest of them were just so good. Like we were spoiled during that time period, and I will say, Born Again is not as good as the Netflix series. It has its moments. I did not like how rushed and how they how apparent the green screen was and how they choreographed the fight scenes in the first episode. So the first episode really made me doubt it. The rest of it did, but then it picked up, and they did a really good job with the storyline. And it's not. I would say it's like maybe 70% as good as the Netflix series, but it's still watchable. I'm not gonna sit there and hate on it, but you know, like they had the perfect formula. All they had to do was rinse and repeat what Netflix, what happened on the Netflix series and how they were handled. So, but not a surprise that Disney would fumble it to an extent. But I'm definitely gonna say, hey, you guys should watch Born Again. It's worthwhile. I'm not gonna be one of those people that's gonna try to get views by just nitpicking and complaining because it's worthwhile. It's enjoyable. So, but not as good as this season of Punisher.
They killed everybody that I've ever cared about. How do you think that feels?
Trust me, I know. A friend of mine betrayed me. I dreamed about the Punisher every night. He thinks that he has the right to judge me. I want him to feel what I felt.
And his acting and arc in this season was, I mean, he did such a good job just acting like a crazy bastard. Um, just phenomenal acting. And I mean, they just did a really good job with his arc of, not having a memory and then kind of managing his craziness with a little bit of humanity that he has left. So they don't make him too sympathetic, right? Because I hate when they try to make the villain super sympathetic and all that. Like they retain the ability to make you hate him throughout the entire show, to where you're never like, oh, maybe he should have a second chance or whatever. No, you're like, nope. Doesn't says I'm gonna hate him. He needs to be taken out. Um, but they at least had enough scenes to where you're like, okay, it makes sense why he is the way he is. And but yeah, just really well done.
We have a mutual acquaintance.
I'm a cast on the girl. So smack. And he has an army. Frank, people are gonna die. I'm gonna end it.
What if Billy Joe's here?
I'm not the one who dies, kid. I'm the one who does the killing.
Oh damn.
He's got some serious issues.
Let me be what I'm meant to be. Go get something to eat.
I'll need some money. Not suspicious at all.
And for such a dark, gritty show, again, they did a really good job just placing some good humor throughout it. And so again, I'm gonna always bring up the movie Accountant. Again, one of my top 5 favorite films of all time. John Bernthal, the guy that plays Punisher, is in that, and it's like a very good character transition. Again, just high octane gun action throughout that film. Just if you like this show, you have to watch The Accountant, and definitely go check out The Accountant 2. It comes out actually next weekend. But yeah, definitely want to give everybody ideas of content if somehow they haven't been exposed to The Punisher season 2, or Justin Hawk's music, or The Accountant season, or The Accountant 1 or 2. Like, I want to be able to help people find good content, or at least ideas, versus just the slop complain tubing that we see all the time. We're seeing people pick apart Born Again like it's like the worst thing ever, and it's like, What planet are you on? Oh yeah, the planet where complaining gets you clicks and money. Yeah, that planet. All right, so let's do a little bit of promotion before Katie starts her stream. She usually has a good 15 minutes or so of videos and stuff before she starts it. So let's first take a look at Silence Dogood by our friend Salty Draws. So I did pull up the sign up page a couple weeks ago. It has launched now, and since then it's raised just over $8,000. It's creeping up on $8,500. So I read the first issue and reviewed that on one of the earlier Dark Horse discourses, and it was a fantastic read. A very good storyline, and Salty is a fantastic artist. He does the line art as well as coloring, lettering. I think the whole 9 yards. Salty's doing. So one of those few people that does that. And so this is the graphic novel. It's the first 3 issues, I believe. So it's about a young Ben Franklin, clever, daring, and rebellious teenager thrust into an unimaginable crisis. Snatched from his time, he is imprisoned in a virtual reality world designed by Milo, America's most formidable tech mogul. This world, governed by cunning AI, is a place where algorithms dictate every move. Humanity is trapped in a sleepless dream, and liberty is a forgotten concept. So yeah, fantastic first issue, great art, some very interesting villains, great setup. So highly recommend folks check this out. It's definitely worth your money. And yeah, he's just also a great creator that promotes others as well. So you can see a lot of preview pages here, but very cool storyline that's pertinent to modern day, right? With the growth of AI and all the nonsense around that. And there's also some variants covers by um, Dan Lawless and Eric Weathers as well. So definitely a lot of great choices here. Yeah, this is a fantastic looking campaign. I think there's also a sneak peek of this book that he's working on with Kurt Schlichter, who's a well-known political folk or guy, I think, on Twitter. So, but yeah, definitely go check this out. Let's get him up to $10,000, the next stretch goal. And yeah, he's just about to hit the end of his first 30 days. So go back, Silence Dogood. Right. And then, yeah, I can't pull it up right now because it's in review. But go check out the Maniac. We saw some of the preview pages by Johnny Rocket there. So go to Fund My Comic tonight, tomorrow, search Maniac, ending with a K instead of a C, and back that and show Niobe that his attempts were futile. Let's see. The next one, let's pull up Prodigy, New Age by Pop Culture Rocks. A lot of folks will probably recognize him from Twitter, from also backing a lot of campaigns. But he's got an awesome looking campaign here that's already raised over $56,000. He's only $75 away from 57K. Should be hitting 60K in no time. I believe he's got an artist named Ryan Benjamin that worked in the mainstream, but very, very professional, high quality looking book. So highly recommend folks check this out. Fantastic colors and line art here. So let's read the short summary here. It says the God Strand is a mythic piece of human DNA puzzle that, until recently, was not known to exist. A portion of it was discovered by Goldstone Laboratories during analysis of the Tunguska blast of 1908 in Siberia, Russia. Yeah, very cool art here. The major governments of Earth became aware of the God Strand after the incident in Soviet Russia that precipitated the nuclear catastrophe at Chernobyl. To be more exact, the UN Nuclear Commission raised questions that could not be easily answered by the Soviet officials. Once the governments of the Western world became aware that humans were mutating, a coalition was formed from some of them. The United States, United Kingdom, Australia, and Israel, head of the World Council on dealing with these humans. They're called the TBEs, terrestrial biological entities, as they are no longer fit, as they no longer fit the definition of human being. One of the few have been confirmed. They have demonstrated tremendous abilities and strength that normal people could only dream of. So yeah, really high quality looking book here. So makes sense that it's raised over $50,000. It's also somehow under the radar. Like he doesn't promote a lot of his stuff on streams or on Twitter. I stumbled upon it because of I think Pimp My Comic and one other stream, but definitely check this out. This looks very, very, very good. So a lot of cool tiers here. So yeah, definitely go check this out. And then we have one more to check out here before I send you guys to Katie Did's channel. Last but not least, we have Phenomenon #2 by our friend Patrick Quinlan. Let's pull that up. Where is it? It's not easy to share tabs on here anymore. Let's see. Oh, there we go. All right. Hey, no problem, Salty. Definitely going to be backing that soon, and I'm also going to be backing Phenomenon #2. Yes, I am a boomer. Sometimes it comes to StreamYards. Plus, I'm like looking for the Indiegogo logo when I'm looking for the page, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's on Fund My Comic. But yeah, Phenomenon #2. So I did do a review of Phenomenon, like magazine #1, as well as Phenomenal Tales #1. Minotaur, both were fantastic. Patrick is well, he's not really a new creator now. This is his third book within like a year. But definitely a guy that you can tell is passionate about the craft. He's improving, book after book, and he's working with some great artists and some great folks in the space. And he's also raising more money campaign after campaign. So again, there's an example of some good growth in the space here. And another gentleman that has a weekly show where he promotes campaigns, that's Comicsgate Commando. So definitely go to his channel on YouTube, follow him on Twitter. But this book looks really good. Let's check out the trailer here. Tying in more global locations, Soviet Russia, things of that nature versus just like U.S. cities. Makes it more intriguing, in my opinion, especially since I have lived in modern day Russia. Oh, nice. Great music. So yeah, I mean, like I said, this takes place in Soviet Russia, which I really enjoy that aspect of it, but also has some supernatural aspects to it, as well as like a super serum, which for folks that have read Vigilante Creed, there'll be some relatable aspects there, but definitely a very cool storyline with some unique characters, and yeah, some really cool art as well. He has a Peter Gilmore Peter Gilmore cover again. I'm sure most folks are aware of him, as well as a Paul Revouche cover. Both look fantastic. His pricing as well is very, very affordable at only $15. So I would recommend picking up both covers, or all three covers here. He's also got a color and a black and white version of the Peter Gilmore cover, and a catch-up tier, which I do recommend that. Again, that was a great, great book. So yeah, definitely check this out. Let's get him up to, so you can see the covers there. That's a cool cover. And also friend of the channel, Frederick Gumont, did this cover. Very cool. So yeah, let's get Patrick up to 2,500 and work to get him beyond the 5,000 range, which I think he ended his last campaign somewhere around between maybe 5,500, 6,000. So let's work to get him higher than the last campaign. All right. Well, I'm going to recommend you guys go over to Katie Did's channel. She is streaming tonight. Should be starting now or very soon. Her CG After Dark stream, where she's going to be promoting Darren Wagner and his campaign. I think it's called Demifoot. Try to showcase that next week. But yeah, go over there, tell the chat that I sent you, and appreciate you guys being here. I will do my best to stream next week as well. Appreciate your guys' support and your commentary. And yeah, everybody have a great night, and God bless.